Good evening. The council come to order, please. Will everyone please stand? We'll be led in prayer by Alderwoman Gould.
Almighty God, we ask for your blessing upon the members of this council as we assemble here in this chamber to conduct the ongoing business of our city. With your guidance, we will strive to ensure that all our decisions are for the common good, and your inspiration will instill respect, compassion, and thoughtfulness in all our deliberations. Give us the strength and wisdom to lead by example as the people's representatives, and that peace and harmony will mark all our proceedings and keep us faithful to the trust placed in us by the citizens of your community. Amen.
Amen. Alderman Neuendorf, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excuse me? I could ask everyone to please stand. A couple of weeks ago, we lost a citizen here in the city of Norwich, Mr. Connie Morell. He previously served as a council president in prior years. He served as the corporate counsel for the city of Norwich also. I would like at this time to ask for a moment of silence in his memory. Thank you. Thank you again.
Citizen Comment General.
Thank you. At this time, I would declare Citizen Comment General open, but I also have to give an explanation. The public hearing for the matter dealing with zoning, which is on our agenda again, was closed. We may not take comment on that matter during the general citizen comment because the public hearing was closed. We did extend it for a number of additional meetings, but we're not permitted by law to take further comment, which would be considered new evidence. We are not allowed to do that by law. And I apologize to any of you who I believe came with the intent to speak on that matter, because I look at the sign-up sheet. It was actually on the resolution sign-up sheet. The non-agenda items is the one for general citizen comment, but we're not permitted by law to take further comment on the matter. So I just needed to explain that. If you have other issues or other items that you want to speak to the council tonight, we would invite you to do so.
May I ask, since there can be no comment, public comment on the matter, on the zoning matter, I ask that any billboards, placards, or signs not be displayed as they may be deemed to be communications to the members of council.
Thank you. You may ask that. Please remove the signs or turn them down, however you want to do it. I mean, we've all seen them across the town. We have seen the message. So, yes, miss. I do not know what you speak of. There's no data center.
There's no change from one side to the other from zoning required to permit.
I cannot discuss it. I apologize, but you mentioned data center. There's no data center. There's just not. I don't know where that comes from other than previous years.
Want me to comment? I'm safe to comment, or can I not?
The city manager wants to comment.
Can I say it?
Yeah, city administration, you can say something you choose.
Since I'm not a member of the voting council tonight, I can answer your question. There is no plans at this point for any data center. If one comes down the road with the development of it, that's possible, but there is no immediate data center at all in the contemplation. I can't hear you as well.
We need to start this.
Yeah, yeah.
It-
Yeah, we can't have a data.
Sorry, I'm going to have to stop this discussion. And again, I apologize, but it's, is there anyone like to speak on matters other than the zoning matter before the council, please? Miss?
I'd just like to know what you're going to do if I don't take my sign
We were discussing that matter in this room. If you have a sign, your property, that's your business. Your business. No one has the right to say anything about that. No, not at all. Gentleman in the back. Well, I'm sorry, there's two gentlemen.
Oh, my gosh.
One at a time, please. Name and address.
All right. I have a concern. I live at 232 Old Canterbury Turnpike. My name is John Tarrick. And lived there for 63 years. Okay? And I have a photo I just want to show you right now.
If this is about zoning, we cannot discuss.
No, it's not about zoning. It's about drainage. It's about drainage from the property. This is what's happening to my property right now as it exists right now. And you're going to build all these buildings.
No, we have to stop. I got your message, clearly. There's a drainage issue. I will personally come up and look at it.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to believe that we come here and ask questions.
That message didn't come from the city. If you were misinformed, it wasn't by anyone here that I know of.
We have come and asked questions.
During the public hearing, which was held on 4 separate nights, it was continued.
On your schedule, it says that it wasn't enough. Yeah.
Wh-
Oh, I don't know, you don't live there.
We all live in Norwich. I saw another hand up on this side. Mrs. Filbert.
Joanne Philbrook, 10 Elm Avenue. First of all, Mr. Mayor, there is a procedure in place where you sign up and you call on people from the list. You have thrown that out the window by letting people from the gallery speak in general. I came here tonight to try and be fair and kind, but you know what? I personally am fed up with the crap that goes on in this city day after day after day. There is no leadership, there is no vision, there is no truth, trust, or transparency. Those of you that apply, and you know who you are, should be embarrassed and ashamed. I'm going to say two things. The gun shop, when I bought my house in Norwich Town, I bought it because I wanted to live in a quiet, historic neighborhood. Now I have a friggin' gun shop in my neighborhood. I support people's right to carry a gun. In fact, I think in today's society, you'd be foolish not to have one. But I don't want a goddamn porn, that's what's gonna come next. Pawn shop, assault rifle, gun shop in my neighborhood. You don't care about the citizens. If you did, you would listen to these people whose lives you're gonna change. And Peter, I need you to explain to me why you don't return my phone calls. I know why. We could eliminate or mitigate these embarrassing, awkward situations if those of you who do not answer your constituents did. Doesn't matter if I voted for you, I didn't vote for you, you don't like me, you like me. You pray to God at the beginning of this meeting to help you, guide you, to listen to the people, and that your votes are based upon compassion. Bullshit. You don't care. And I hope to God that because you will not let the people whose neighborhoods are going to be impacted speak, that you do not give Mr. Brown, or whatever the attorney's name is, a chance to speak on this tonight. If they need to be silent, they need to be silent. You have to realize that this country is at a tipping point. I'm not done, so I don't know what you're going to do. Maybe you can arrest me.
Joanne, please summarize.
When are you going to start treating the citizens of this city who have put their time, sweat, and taxes into it for years and years and decades, and start listening? Not saying you have to change your mind, but at least listen. If you truly cared, you would. I have to get out of here. I'm going out of here in a pine box. I know that. My health is bad. And I know when I die, there will be no testimonial from the city council because you'll be happy to see me go. But you know what? I'm ready. I'm happy to go because I don't want to live here anymore.
Yeah. But that list was about the zoning matter, and we cannot take testimony on that.
Not talk about the zoning. First of all, Mr. Mayor, should I identify what street I'm on? And
Everyone who speaks, we are asked to please give name and address. Yes,
okay,
sir.
thank you. So I'm walking up to Lectern, 671 Scotland Road. My name's Frederick Browning. I just want to bring you back to a happier meeting in a happier time. January 17th, okay, please calm down. January 17th, when I was at a meeting, another developer brought in a project about, I think it was Panema Mills. Please correct me if I'm wrong. It was like it was a plan and it was a revision. And the council heard this development proposal, all nodded and voted 6-0 to support it because it was a good idea. Please correct me, Mayor Nystrom, if I'm wrong on the facts.
I believe you're correct.
Yeah. Everybody looked at each other. I think it was updating Panema Mills. Nodded and said, yeah, this makes sense. Let's do it. So I present that as a vision of development where you had wide-scale consensus versus another situation where you obviously have a lot of discontent. And my question to you folks is, do you want to be dealing with situations like this for the next 10 years? Or do you want to have development in Norwich, I'm just saying that hypothetically, where there's consensus and people agree on it rather than just endless controversy and arguing? So that is my suggestion, not that I'm bringing up a particular development or a zoning change. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak on the general citizen comment? Yes, sir.
Reiner Beckman, 210 Old Canterbury Turnpike. I have a quick thing to say about process. And this is about the city's relationship with these private entities in general, which I don't really totally understand. I don't understand the city's relationship with NFA. I think that's kind of messed up. We don't have a zoning board that controls what happens with our students when our taxpayer money is paying for those students. So I have a problem with that. I've always had a problem with that. Now, this deal with NCDC, just in general, we have 3 of you sit on the board of NCDC and also sit here, and you control zoning? To me, that's corrupt. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else on the general citizen comment? Yes, sir.
I'm Harold McDowell from 365 Canterbury Turnpike, and this whole process is flawed. I mean, you don't care what the voters want. 10 or 12 years ago, there was a referendum on that same property, and it got voted down. Now the good old boys club found a way around it. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you. Again, is there anyone else like to speak under general citizen comment at this time? But please.
Once you pass this, which we already,
We can't discuss that.
no, I'm not talking about changes to it. I just want to.
No, I can't answer anything on that.
You can't tell me what I can do once you pass it to try and get it undone?
I cannot comment in any way. That's the state statute, that's... I'd be very pleased to speak with you after the meeting. I'm very happy to do that.
Will you tell her that you can't answer it?
Again, state law determines what is allowed right now at this moment. The public hearing was closed after being held 4 different nights.
Does the state say
And
it's not both committees?
so cannot discuss anything further on that at this time.
It's our future, you know?
It's this entire city's future, that is correct.
Do you have an industrial park in the backyard of your house? Let me ask you that. Do you?
I'm not going to comment on things right now.
Have an industrial park in their backyard?
Yes, Miss?
I don't want to answer either. Fucking spines, man, everyone spines.
Christine Delorge, 334 Canterbury Turnpike. When you do this whole thing, when you're saying that 18-wheelers will not be able to traffic Canterbury Turnpike or Lorler, that your C-turn or U-turn or whatever you want to call it, your roundabout, we have tractor trailers that drive our road now. So how will you stop them then?
Thank you for sharing concerns on traffic. Yes, Miss.
My name's Erica Cardio, and I live at 538 Scotland Road. We came here 2 years ago. We moved here to that area specifically. The people that we met, we looked all over. People that we met, there's such a strong sense of community and good, wholesome values. And I just wanted to say that it's really sad, the whole confrontation thing and not trusting in the city leaders. I mean, that's all I wanted to say. It's just, we never would have bought here. We never would have started a little farmette thing, you know, here. We would have just, not like we would have been mad about it. We just would have chosen somewhere else if we would have known. And it hurts when you find out that this kind of plan has been in the works for more than a couple of years, and you're just kind of finding out about it when you're 2 years in. I just think that it's sad.
Thank you. If it's any subject other than, please, the microphone, name and address, please.
Marilyn Jester, Canterbury Turnpike. Okay, everybody has a problem with where Old Canterbury and Canterbury Turnpike meet. There's like a gully there, and there's ice and everything. Is there any future of fixing that area so it doesn't get icy and, you know what I'm talking about? Okay, is there anything in the, future to fix that area? To keep from icing over?
Certainly take it into consideration from this moment forward, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And everyone here heard that. Charlie?
Charlie Witt, 511 Canterbury Turnpike. I'm going to go back 25 years ago, if not longer. Peter, I don't think you were involved back then. I don't think any of you were. My dad was a city council president, and there was a study done on an industrial park in Norwich. And that industrial park was going to be at the top of Laurel Hill, up on the top of the hill. That piece of land is untouched from the Norwich State Hospital property all the way to Talman Street. Many, many, many acres of land. Less impact to the city, to the community, access to 395, access to Route 12, and waterways and rail. Was that land ever looked at this time? Maybe you can answer that, Mr. Brown.
We're not going to have that.
Okay.
We can't do that,
I
Charlie.
apologize.
It's all right, but we can't do that.
But that land is more acreage, less impact to the city, and it's up in an area that would not affect the city. It's on top of that big hill. If you know the land I'm talking about, go on Google Maps and look at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Yes, sir. No, please, everything has, name and address, please, for the public record.
My name is John Tarrick, 232 Old Canterbury Turnpike, and I can answer your question. The water at the top of Old Canterbury Turnpike is caused by a wash well that Tarrick Brothers Farm had to put in due to an environmental issue which was never proven or anything. Seymour Edelman did the excavation on it, and the wash well had to run for 4 years. And digging so deep, they hit a vein of water, and that's what runs out by the farmhouse. I can tell you that's what causes the whole problem. So,
Thank you. Miss, please.
Jan Swain, 506 Canterbury Turnpike. I address this to Mr. Driscoll. Can you give me a ruling on whether the members of the NCDC can also sit on the chambers and take a vote without any conflict of interest?
Yes.
They can?
Yes.
I can't hear you.
Yes.
I still can't hear you. Use the microphone, please.
They can.
They can?
Yes, they're expected to vote on this as a member of the zoning commission.
So it's like 2 bites of the apple that they get. They put it in, then vote for it. That's great, thank you.
Yes, please.
Sue Jacobson, 256 Lawler Lane. I don't have anything to discuss about, well, I did have things to discuss, but my concern right now is for safety. And if, I don't know what the zoning is going to do for the cars, but the cars in the, I passed a school bus the other day. I literally had to stop at the side of the road to let the school bus go. The road is so narrow. It was really quite scary. On the side where I had to stop, it's all washed out on Scotland Road, so it would be a drop down. My car would have dropped down. It was really quite scary. So I'm concerned about that. The speed that goes on in Scotland Road, Lawler Lane, Canterbury Turnpike, and the vehicles being watched, addressed. How big can they come through there? Those are my concerns. And will that be addressed? Well, no, I mean, I'm just concerned about it in general, not anything to do with the project. I mean, in general, every single day, I sit at my driveway and I fear that someone's going to barrel around the corner and get me. I mean, it's a legitimate fear. I actually had somebody smashed into the tree in my front yard. But they got a sign up there that tells you you're going 33, 31, but people just blow by it. I don't think anything becomes of it. I think something really needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is William Bridgman. I live at 44 White Plains Road. So these people behind me, I don't live on Canterbury Turnpike, but I am for them. So what I'm saying is this whole problem is going to have further reach the area than anyone's speaking of. White Plains Road is a narrow road, and we've already had problems on the other industrial park. So I don't know what's going to happen here, but I think you better be very careful before you do what you want to do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, miss.
Jessica Quay, Old Canterbury Turnpike. I just want you to know I feel literally physically sick being in this room. Maybe it's because I'm a big old crybaby, Mr. Neuendorf. But it's, you open this meeting with a prayer asking for God, whoever God is, to guide you to make decisions for this town, for us, these people. And I just want you to know that, yeah, we are big old crybabies because this is our freaking life, not yours. You work for this town. You work for these people. Listen to these people. That's it.
Thank you. Is there further comment on general citizen comment, please? Gentleman in the back. What? Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Good evening. My name is French. My wife and I live on White Plains Road. We are not anti-development.
I'm sorry, could you
Your name again? My name is French. I live at 85 White Plains Road.
Thank you.
It's not my nationality, it's my last name. I don't think anyone here is anti-development. I think we're pro-community. Development has to be proportional to the area that you're placing it. This is not proportional. We all know that. And I would say to all of you, I've been vehemently opposed to any development, whether it was the Laurel Hill area, the existing industrial park, or any open space, in the sense that I think open space is important and it should be integrated and acquired for the good of the community. That aside, I ask anyone in this room, wherever you stand on this issue, I know we can't speak about it, but can anyone provide me the current return on investment for the existing industrial park? That is for all the monies put in, all the monies promised, or all the jobs promised, or whatever was given out, and what our return is. Are we ahead, breaking even, or are we in the hole? Does anyone have that answer?
That information is available.
Yeah,
I'll get it to you.
looked. Well, Mr. Mayor, sir, I appreciate that, but the reality is that should be available to any one of us on a website where we can go and say, okay, this is the monies we put in, this is what was promised, this is what we got back. When I drive through the industrial park, I have to believe that we haven't gotten anything back. Again, I seek a positive shift. I think most of us here seek a positive shift. We're not here to go to the mat on every single issue. But I think we can make the assessment that this is an unreasonable development for this specific area. And I'll be direct with you. Even if you said, hey, we're going to open the world's biggest mountain bike park and yoga studio, I'd still be like, no, it's not proportionate to the area. So I ask for your consideration on that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all for your comments. This time set aside for that is 30 minutes, and we have reached that at this point in time. And we will move forward with the rest of the agenda. Thank you all.
Second reading and possible action on the below ordinance previously presented. An ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Norwich, creating a business master plan district.
Thank you. A motion is necessary to bring this to the floor for discussion at this time. Is there such a motion? Alderwoman Gould. Is there a second? Alderman Neuendorf. Alderwoman Gould, you have the floor.
Thank you. I have some proposed changes that I'd like to offer up on this ordinance. Without a business master plan, there is no protection for the residents who live in this area. And if you remember 2 weeks ago, made a motion to postpone action, had the opportunity with staff to try to incorporate some of the concerns that you had into my proposals that I'm going to offer tonight as an amendment to this ordinance. Some of them are Scribner's notes, and then some are, well, you'll hear about them in a minute. So I'd like to offer these if I get someone to give me a second on the proposed changes. Mrs. Barrett.
Yeah, a little closer to the microphone, please.
I feel like I'm on top of it.
Just for clarity, you're asking to make a motion to
I'd
amend?
like to make a motion to offer some amendments to this ordinance.
And you intend to explain them?
Yes, Mrs.
Okay.
Barrett has got copies.
Is there a second? A second by Alderman Neuendorf. Okay, you have the floor, Alderman Gould.
Okay, and everyone's got the copies? Thank you. Okay, so the first one, which you'll see in red, where it says, on one page, it says remove, where it says the master plan. This is a Scribner's note. It should actually be on the second page in yellow. This was something that was pointed out by Mr. Poland. So this is just a Scribner's note for number one. Under there is number C as a Scribner's note where it says front yard 20 and the foot symbol for 20 feet. I think we should spell that out, 20 feet for the front yard, side yard, and rear yard. Where you see number 2, I'd like to remove that in its entirety and replace it with what is in yellow in number 2. Any development site that shares a boundary. Number 3, I'd like to remove that in its entirety and replace it with the maximum building height shall be 5 stories, not to exceed 50 feet, with the exception of development sites located adjacent to 395. And then on number 4 is a Scribner's note to remove the word parcel and replace it with the words development site. And if you'd like me to read the changes for 2 and 3 into the record, I can.
Please do so.
Okay. So in number 2, I'm going to remove the page that you have with the red lettering. We're going to remove that in its entirety and replace it with any development site that shares a boundary with residential zone, with a residential zone, and where a building is proposed shall have an increased maximum yard along the boundary of 50 feet, of which 25 feet shall be a landscape buffer enhanced with trees, berms, and/or fencing, as determined acceptable by the Commission on the City Plan. In a circumstance where the Commission on the City Plan determines the proposed buffer is not sufficient based on a proposed use, the Commission may require an increase of the buffer to more than 50 feet, but not to exceed 100 feet. And on number 3, on the first page, we're in red, we're going to remove all of that and replace it with maximum building height shall be 5 stories, not to exceed 60 feet, with the exception of development sites located adjacent to Interstate 395 and situated between Lawler Lane and Canterbury Turnpike may be increased to 6 stories, not to exceed 72 feet. And the area that I'm talking about for number 3 are the there are 3 proposed parcels on this map that's labeled Flex Building 4, Building 7, and Building 12. So those would be the only ones that would be allowed to be increased to 6 stories. Otherwise, the maximum building height would be 5 stories, not to exceed 60 feet.
If I may ask a question? What I read in this is that you're taking it from where, in section 2, where it talked about a 50-foot buffer, but a maximum height of 80 feet?
Correct, removing the maximum
You're-
height of 80 feet and bringing it down to 5 stories, except for those 3 parcels. The 3 proposed parcels between Lawler Lane and Canterbury Turnpike, which are to the east, adjacent to 395. So if you have a map, it's Flex Building 4, Building 7, and Building 12. And those are just proposed sites.
So if I ask again, previously 80-foot was the mark. You're now capping it at 60 feet? Except
Correct.
for those 3 potential
Except for
sites
those other
along the
3.
highway?
Yes, that is correct. So reducing it from 80 feet.
Okay, thank you. Other members who have questions who would like to ask or engage in dialogue? I'll ask another question then. I noticed that you're expressly determining that the Commission on the City Plan would have a greater responsibility when considering an individual application as described therein, particularly when it comes to the buffer.
Correct.
And all of that is a public process where anyone, including anyone here tonight, has the right to attend,
Right.
anyone who has an application going forward.
That is correct.
And be there for that?
Yes.
Okay,
Meetings of the Commission on the City Plan are open to the public.
yes. Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, 'cause I didn't hear what you said?
That meetings of the Commission on the City Plan are open to the public?
Yes, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there further comment or questions at this time? Yes, President Pro Tem.
I don't have a question for the Alderwoman, but I don't see where this is a significant departure from what's being proposed. I mean, 80-foot tall buildings, 72-foot tall buildings. We're still talking about an order of magnitude not seen anywhere else in the city. I'm also concerned that the definition of a landscape buffer is, well, it isn't really defined. There's some examples here. I'm just,
Well, the landscape buffer would be determined by the commission on the city plan.
Excuse me.
I yield the floor.
Would you like to hear from the city planner for greater discussion on that issue? Would anyone welcome that?
Yes.
You would, okay.
Deanna Rhodes, Director of Planning, so I can answer the question about the buffer. A landscape buffer, when we look at that in applications right now, we don't consider something like just grass as being a buffer if we're going to be using it for protection. Most of the time, we have some type of evergreen for planting for trees, 8-foot-high arborvitaes at planting, or 10-foot high white pines. We really do require that. We usually have them a separation distance that makes sense, probably 10 to 20 feet apart, staggered 2 lines at a minimum, so that you do have some really good growth areas. So from a buffer standpoint, the commission's been pretty good about requiring nice planted buffers if we need them from that standpoint. So a planted buffer wouldn't necessarily be like just grass. It would be something that really blocks the view. And I think you said berms in there,
Right, yes.
in that. So a berm would be a mounded area, and so the mounded area then could have plantings on top of it or fences on top of that as well. So that would be something that would be an additional help from what I heard from sitting in the public, listening to the public testimony as far as some protections.
You still have the floor.
But none of that would be required.
No, I think it actually says that the buffer is required. If it's adjacent to a residential, from what I'm hearing, if it's adjacent to a residential area, there's a minimum buffer of 50 feet. 25 of that, I believe, would be the planted buffer.
Landscape buffer enhanced
Buffer
with
would be
trees, berms,
25.
or fencing.
And that enhanced with fencing, and then additionally, the commission could make that buffer even larger. So if there's a use that seemed like maybe it was a little bit louder, or there'd be more traffic or something, that they could enhance that buffer to be as wide as 100 feet. No more than 100 feet, but still, that's a fairly significant, because I think originally it was 25, if I'm correct, when it originally was proposed. So I think that's been a significant change to that was being proposed.
Another question.
Yeah.
Could you please describe, under current zoning, what the regulations would be for this property?
So I don't have my regs with me, and I apologize for that. I didn't expect to be asked a question. So some of the zone is general commercial zone, other zone is a planned development district. So uses such as hospitals, college campuses allowed in the planned development district. In the general commercial, a lot of times typical retail, restaurants, other things, hotels and things like that. So the underlying zone right now has a 80-foot maximum height in that zone right now. No, excuse me, I believe it's, I don't have my regs in front of me. I think it says 7 stories. I think that's what it actually says in the regulations, is 7 stories. It does not give a height, which, so if a normal commercial height would normally be about 12-foot height. So what's that, 96, something like that feet? So 80 foot, thank you. Not doing math in my head. So yeah, so if it's seven stories at a 12-foot story, but because it doesn't define what a story is in the regs right now, someone could, in theory, have higher than that. They could do a 12 to 20-foot story. They could have a lower first floor, 20 feet, and then some. So what is being stated in this reg with the changes actually is a little bit more protection than the current zoning, underlying zoning right now.
So speak to us then about the, and I know we have you at a disadvantage because you may not have the map in front of you, but speak to us about the properties on, well, let me frame my question first. It's one thing to talk about the property between Lawler Lane and Canterbury Turnpike along 395.
Mm-hmm.
It's another thing to talk about the property between Canterbury Turnpike and the DOT garage.
Okay.
And on the other side of Lawler Lane that extends all the way behind Wales Road. And this is all part of this development.
So I would say that it sounds like to me, based on this, is that there would be that 5 stories, 60 feet maximum everywhere but those 3 development sites, which are between that Lawler Lane and Canterbury Turnpike, that are right adjacent from 395. There is quite a bit of wetlands, and I did go through wetlands, but there is quite a bit of wetlands on the lower part, on the east side of Canterbury Turnpike, and then on, I guess it would be the west side of Lawler Lane, that somewhat provides a protection too, which is kind of nice to have that buffer of the wetlands, and that they're going to be in their natural habitat. The Wetlands Commission was pretty careful about making sure there wasn't significant crossings to get to particular, areas to develop. So that Lawler Lane, is not as much development in that area because there's a fairly large wetland swath in there that you can actually see from 395.
And in those zones, would all of those plans have to go before the commission on the city plan?
Yeah, so currently, everything needs to go before the commission on the city plan, and it would be, depending on the use, on the underlying zone, it would be a special permit or a site plan use that has to go. A special permit use for the public is a use that has a public hearing for that particular application. In the master plan proposal, the way the regulations are written is that all of the development sites still go to the commission on the city plan, but they are all site plan, which means the public is absolutely aware and to be able to go to the meetings, but it's not a public hearing for each of those applications. It's just each application would be heard as a site plan development.
So, to simplify it, what's been proposed by the applicant, amendments that are being proposed tonight, and the existing zoning for all of these properties all have one thing in common. They have to go before the commission on a city plan.
Yes, so any development that happens here will go to the commission on the city plan for any of these development sites. They're not parcels because they're not individual lots. There's a few lots, but they're spread out through, so there's site development. So each one of them, each potential use, so if for some reason, I don't know, let's just say a manufacturer or something, some widget maker wants to come in, they need to bring their building plan in, their floor plans in, all their drainage, the design for driveway, everything specific to that site development needs to be looked at by the commission and reviewed by all the technical staff and fire marshals and the typical development team of the city.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have comment or questions at this time? What's before us is an amendment that's been offered by Alderwoman Gould. Is there any further comment at this time?
I have a question for Corporation
Sure,
Counsel.
certainly, sir.
Well, we're proposing an amendment from the floor without input from the applicant themselves. I don't know how,
Wouldn't, I mean,
I'm uncomfortable with that.
well, the public hearing is over, so the issue is before the council to decide. The council has a right to amend the ordinance for reasons that the council thinks appropriate. They can't vote on an amended ordinance tonight. It'll have to be re-advertised, and it would come back at the next meeting if the amendment is approved tonight. If the amendment isn't approved, or some other amendment isn't approved, then the council can act on the resolution, or the ordinance rather, as it is currently. If it's amended, it'll come back in 2 weeks. March, whatever, 6th, I think. But 4th? March 4th. 6th, okay, I thought it was 6th. It'll be advertised in the paper. The copies that you'll be voting on the next time will have the language changed to include that. So it affects only some sections, some which appear to be just procedural changes, some others are more significant. And in theory, if the council were to amend it again, you can't vote on it the same night you do an amendment. So you just, whether you amend it verbally from the floor, I mean, you could amend it again tonight if you choose after you do this. It's just the process, because we're following the ordinance process in adopting this.
If that were to be the case, then does the public hearing reopen?
No,
Do we hear from the applicant?
no.
And are we all still on a gag order that we can hardly even speak to each other?
You're still under the order that you are acting as a zoning commission, and the rules that apply to a zoning commission are that you do not have ex-parte communications about this or speak to each other about it other than in a public session here.
Could I ask Deanna Rhodes to come back to the podium, please?
So I just want to explain that this zoning ordinance amendment's a little different than most amendments for, say, a zone change. You know, it's usually a zone change is just kind of a, this is the boundaries, this is what it is. This is the area, and it's set. Because of this ordinance is a master plan that's part of the zone change. It changes, it makes an overlay that lands on top of a piece of property, but it also has these other criteria, which is basically a general map. It's somewhat different. So in the sense of that the commission has the council has a right, acting as the zoning commission, to make conditions that they feel based on testimony that they've heard that they can modify. They don't have to have discussions with the applicant, because the applicant's asking for A, and you hear C, and you're like, okay, you know, we could, maybe I'm considering B, that here's kind of both. And so that's where you have to be comfortable. If you want, you can, I just want you to know, you can amend a zoning request because it's the master plan component. Even if, if it was, or say, they don't get an opportunity. I guess that's what I say. The public doesn't have an opportunity. They already had their opportunity to comment, and the comments were heard, and that's what the council's kind of considering. The applicant kind of has to live with what the council decides, if they voted for it, against it, or a modified version of it, and that's just how it works. But the way that Norwich is with having this republication, it does give the public a chance to actually see that language in writing while it gets published before you would have an opportunity to vote on it. So that's a nice thing, that instead of just being off the cuff and then saying something and then voting on it like in most communities, this gives a little bit of time so that the public can actually see what those comments were. Does that help?
Go ahead. Yep.
What about the 65-day clock?
So you have 65 days to make a decision after the close of public hearing. So we closed the public hearing on December. Was it December? What day was the day we actually closed the public hearing?
You opened it, I think, in December.
Opened it the 5th.
January 3rd, maybe?
So I don't have it in front of me, but this is how the clock works.
First
There's
meeting in January.
The first meeting in January, so you have 65 days from there. But there's also, by statute, an additional 65 days, that's this bonus 65 days, you can use anywhere in the process, either at the beginning of the process, before you open a public hearing, keep the public hearing open, but that's been closed, the beginnings. So you got this 65 days, extra days you can use if you needed so for your purposes to continue to have time to make a decision. And that's statutorily allowed.
You lost me on that last part.
So you got 65 days at the beginning to open a public hearing. That's already over.
Yeah.
You got 35 days to hold a public hearing, right? And
Which we've
close
done.
it.
Yep.
Then you got 65 days to make a decision. But the statute gives an extra 65 days where you can use any of those 65 days within that process, the beginning, middle, or the end. And we have that, you haven't used those days yet. So if the council needed more time, in theory, they could add it to the end at this point, because you've already closed the public hearing. Does that make sense?
It does. But
Okay.
I don't like it, but it does.
I don't make the rules.
Alderman Singh.
Quick question. So that extra 65 days, don't we need approval from the applicant?
if you are getting to be to that, you're not at your, you said you closed the public hearing at the beginning of January, right? That you said, so that's going to bring us January, February, you know, so we're beginning of March probably. Then at that point, the applicant could say, we don't want you to use those 65 days. But what that does is it forces your hand to make a decision if you're not ready. So 99.9% of the time, that no applicant has ever said, we don't want you to use the extra time that you available to you by statute. Because if they think things aren't going in their favor, why would they rush anybody to make a decision? So it's much better if you needed the time to take it, but if you know, that's why the statute allows for it. Does that make sense? Am I explaining it well? Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Anyone else?
Does that then create a requirement, in this case, the city, to provide a formal notice to the applicant that you're doing A versus B?
No. No, because it's like a decision in any commission meeting. They can have heard at a you know, public hearing, and they hear comments, and they say, you know what, we're going to make you X, Y, Z, condition the approval that you have to do this, and you have to do this. And so the applicant, if they don't like it, they don't have to do it. Do you know what I'm trying to say? It's you know, it's you're acting as the zoning authority, and you're saying this is what we're going to, you know, in theory, this is what we're offering, and if we pass that, they can say, well, we don't like it, it doesn't work for us, it doesn't work for them. You know, no, the hearing is closed, and so they don't have an opportunity. You've heard from the public, and you've heard from them, and you now have to just make the decision based on that.
Thank you.
So basically, if we accepted these amendments, the applicant knows, okay, building height is this is the buffer, this is the, and either you like it or you say, forget it, walk away from it.
Yeah, or I mean, have anybody ever gone and said, I want a variance to something later on? Yeah, people go for variances, but it doesn't mean, a variance is a public hearing process. And then you have all the people come forward and saying, yo, you don't have a hardship, which means what's unique of why you shouldn't, but the zoning rules should be bent for you. And so it's really hard to get, you know, have new regulations passed and then someone come in and say, well, I want a variance, I didn't get what I want. There's no hardship, they didn't get what they wanted. If that makes sense.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm trying to be as simple for you and for the public so they understand the process, so.
Thank you. Is there any other member of council request a comment or a question to our planner at this time? Alderman Singh.
So let's say we pass these amendment. So applicant, maybe these don't work for applicant. That's true, right?
So I would imagine.
Then what is the point of them? I just don't understand.
So I would say, this is my opinion as a planner. If you're saying to someone you can have 5-story building up to 60 feet in height, and someone comes in and comes to see me in a business and says, Deanna, I want to build a building that's this tall, and I'd say, our regulations are this, so change your design to this, or this is not the right lot for you. This is not the right place for you. Maybe you need to be over here out of that zone into this other place. Maybe you want to be in general commercial somewhere else, or you're allowed to be that height. So there, you know, I mean, it does. It makes that master plan have some criteria that they have to adhere to. And the Commission on the City Plan has that criteria, so when it goes to them for, you know, Joe Widget Company wants to come in, all right, they're going to be this height, and this is, you know, oh, they're between here and here on the road, so they get to be a little taller. They're not there, then they're maximum 60 feet height. Oh, you're narrow residential zone. You need to install that buffer. You need to have those setbacks. So it's really up to the Commission on the City Plan to make sure that they enforce what happens as far as the ordinance is passed for that master plan.
Thank you. Alderman Singh, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Is there any further comment or concern on the offer of the amended language at this time? Okay.
I would ask for a brief recess.
Yeah.
So I can confer with my caucus mates.
10 minutes?
You're not able to confer with the caucus mates. I mean,
Oh.
you have to do it in open session here. You're acting as the zoning
Okay.
commission only on this particular issue.
Okay.
He was requesting a recess to have a discussion with his colleagues, but because we're in the zoning capacity, we're not allowed to do that. We can't talk to each other, except in this open process.
Fair enough. So I withdraw the request.
Okay.
But I ask for the floor.
Absolutely, sir.
Thank you. I would say that I applaud Alderwoman Gould's work on this. However, I do not feel that it goes far enough to address the concerns that we've been wrestling with for the last 2 months. Okay, so on that motion, on this item, I yield the floor.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? I'll make a brief comment. I believe this requested amendment improves things. Clearly, the public does not want to see 80-foot buildings anywhere out there. This eliminates that. And I heard many people at the public meetings, public hearings, talk about improved and larger buffer distances between properties. The introduction of berms with vegetation or other site barriers erected even on the berms, I think is an improvement as well, where it could actually move out to a 100-foot buffer. Clearly, when originally was proposed, it was 20 feet. 100 foot is clearly far better where it's appropriate, and the fact that the Commission on the City Plan would be empowered to make those decisions where I think these kinds of decisions belong. I think it is an improvement, so for those reasons, and I believe it is consistent with the Plan of Conservation and Development, I will support the amendment. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Berto?
No.
Alderman Singh?
No.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
No.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes. The motion fails 3-3. We are back to the ordinance as previously amended. That is before us. Is there further discussion at this time?
Make a motion to postpone.
A motion to postpone. Do you have a specific time, a date?
Next council meeting?
So the first meeting?
First meeting in March?
In March. Is 6th?
March 6th.
The motion before us is postponed till March 6th. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Neuendorf. Is there discussion on the motion to postpone? No discussion. A roll call, please.
Alderwoman Berto?
No.
Alderman Singh?
No.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
No.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
It's 3-3.
The motion postponed fails. It was a tie vote again, 3-3. Is there further discussion on the ordinance as amended at this time?
Not as amended.
Well, it was previously amended. I'm sorry, I should have said previously amended at another meeting. Seeing none, a roll call, please.
Alderman Berto?
Oh, we're voting on the ordinance as previously amended at prior meetings.
No.
Alderman Singh?
No.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
No.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
It's 3-3.
The vote is 3-3 on the ordinance as previously amended, therefore the ordinance fails.
City Manager's report.
Thank you. This is the city manager's report for February 21st, 2023. If people want to leave now, I'll wait, so you don't have to listen to my city manager report.
You're on.
Yeah. Thank you. I was going to ask you to close the door, officer. Thank you for anticipating that. Meetings attended were with state representatives and legislators, Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, Board of Directors meeting, Public Safety, NPU City Coordination meeting, NCDC Board of Directors meeting. Budget hearings have been scheduled and are posted on the city's website at www.norwichct.org. The mild winter has allowed the Public Works Department to complete work that normally couldn't be done in February, such as installation of the new playground equipment at Mohegan Park and some significant grade changes to allow for a more level area for the equipment. Public Works has also spent some time on headstone repairs in the Yantic Cemetery, repairing or resetting approximately 40 headstones. The Public Works tree crew has also utilized the new bucket truck to remove nearly 20 trees in the last month. The trees included those overhanging the Lake Street Park near the soon-to-be refurbished basketball courts. The Public Works mason crew repaired a large semi-collapsed stone headwall on a large culvert on White Plains Road. Human Services Youth, Family, and Recreation Division recently partnered with our local WNBA team, the Connecticut Sun, to provide a unique basketball experience every Saturday at Kelly Middle School. The Connecticut Sun team representatives and players have also made appearances to run drills, answer questions, and talk to players about sportsmanship, the importance of school, and the dedication that goes into being a professional athlete. Thank you to the dedicated coaches and the Connecticut Sun for making this special experience. AARP Tax Assistance Program at the Norwich Senior Center is progressing with over 500 appointments booked to date, with only a few spots remaining. Congressman Courtney will be visiting the Senior Center on February 24th at 10 a.m. to discuss senior health issues, including prescription medications and Medicare. For more information, call 860-889-5960. Human Services Adult and Family Services had tripled their matching payment plan with NPU. Help is available at 860-823-3778. Please don't wait till the shut-off moratorium ends to get caught up on your utilities. On February 8th, the city and local legislators welcomed the Norwich Youth Football League cheerleaders and football team to congratulate their respective state, regional, and national championships. Congratulations to the participants and their coaches. And finally, thank you to the United Way, city employees, and volunteers who served a record 242 households at the mobile pantry in Norwich. And that concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you, John. Other questions of the city manager at this time? Yes, Alderman Singh.
I just want to highlight the fact that the new playground equipment at Mohegan Park is mostly focused on toddlers, just for the benefit of public. Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? Seeing none. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Citizen comment on resolutions.
At this time, I declare the citizen comment on the 4 resolutions on our agenda to be open. If anyone likes to comment on them, please speak at the microphone, give your name and address. For members of the public, 1 deals with conveying property 8460 Tallman Street and the deed in lieu of foreclosure. The other 3 deal with construction for new elementary school on the grounds of the former Greenville School, Moriarty Environmental Science Magnet School property, and the John B. Stanton School property. These are here before us tonight as we move forward with constructing new elementary schools. That's their purpose. Does anyone wish to comment on, citizen comment on resolutions at this time? Yeah, please.
Good evening, Sheila Hayes, 382 Laurel Hill Avenue. And my comments are on resolution number 1. And I was hoping that somebody was going to be here from the Santiago Society. And it saddens me, this is the second historic property in this, that the city has taken back due to back taxes. The first one being the Martin Luther King Center on the west side, and now you have this property being taken back from the Cape Verdean Society. I realize taxes have to be paid, and I understand that that may be the only option that they have in order to rectify the situation. But what I would hope, because that is such a significant part of the culture of the Cape Verdeans who came here, whose parents came here in the early 1900s, and even including the more recent Cape Verdeans who are arriving in this country, that the Cape Verdean Society in that particular piece of land was integral to the tight-knit community that they had in Norwich, and that's part of the fabric of the Cape Verdean people that live in this city and have lived in this city. So I would hope that the city would open up at least a dialogue with the Cape Verdean Society to see if there is a way that that parcel of land, once it becomes city-owned property, can be preserved and not sold as lots of properties that are taken over by the city, that that land would be preserved and somehow it would be recognized for the great contributions that the members of the Cape Verdean Society have contributed to the city. The chapel was one of the items that has been preserved over on St. Mary's, on the property of St. Mary's. This land to me is that important, and I asked for consideration as the city takes control of this property to reach out to the Santiago Society and see if they can work on how to keep that land preserved with their history. It's a historic site. If Reed Hughes is a historic site and Calkins House is an historic site, Ellis Ruley's property is a historic site, this too is an historic site. Thank you.
Thank you. Is anyone else like to speak on the resolutions before us this evening at this time, please? Yes, please.
My name is Beth Bellevue. I live at 5 Tower Hill Road in Norwich. My concern with the proposal of the building sites and the renovations for the Norwich Public Schools concerns the Greenville area. As a former teacher at Greenville School, when I would arrive and have to help with cleaning up broken glass, the removal of hypodermic needles, and the broken windows, the graffiti on the buildings, the inappropriate graffiti on the buildings, and watching the custodial staff work to try to take care of that before the students arrive just for school just gives me great concern as to putting another building in that situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for expressing that. Is there anyone else looking to speak on the resolutions? Yes, please, Ms. Filbert.
Joanne Filbert, 10 Elm Avenue. I'd like to speak in regards to resolution number 1. When I saw this, I did a little research on my own, so I called the tax collector's office. The Cape Verdean Society, which owns these two relatively small pieces of land, owe in excess of $24,000 in back taxes. Taxes have not been collected since 2016. When I spoke to the tax collector and asked her how this can happen, she was like, well, you know, we had the pandemic. Yeah. The pandemic didn't arrive on our doorsteps until, 2021? So I don't have a lot of sympathy for these special interest groups. You own a piece of property, you pay your taxes. You don't pay your taxes, and then the city comes along and takes it. Unfortunately, the city is not very adept in the real estate business. So now you're going to take over these two pieces of property, which means they will become our responsibility to maintain and insure them. Every day I wake up and I say to myself, today I'm going to try and have a positive day. And every day I wake up and something else slaps me in the face. And the other thing that is very, very interesting is that the contact person for the Cape Verdean Society, who one would think would be the point person for delinquent taxes, liability insurance, happens to be a gentleman who gives his address as 66 Franklin Street. So let me just refresh and educate those of you who don't know. 66 Franklin Street is the home office and epicenter of NCDC. I just don't get it. I must be missing something in my old age. But I will just remind you again that if you could answer my questions in a private setting, it would save us all some embarrassment. So take the property. They didn't pay their taxes? Take the property. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further comment on any resolution? Yes, please.
Good evening. I'm Deborah Lehman. I reside at 560 Boswell Avenue in Norwich. I was a former teacher at Greenville Elementary School for 10 years, and my children all went there. I do agree with Ms. Bellevue, who spoke earlier, about some of the graffiti and the different things that were found in the playground. But I also, the Greenville I knew and loved was a wonderful community. Under the leadership of Dr. Nardone, it was magic there. And I have to say, I'm excited that it's coming back to our neighborhood. I think it's what we need. The children, the whole Greenville district was divided up where, from where I live, from 7th Street down, they went to Moriarty. If you lived from 7th Street over, you were going to Stanton, and then if you were up on Mohegan Park Road, you were going to Uncas. Now, whether that's still how it's redistricted, I don't know. But I think we need to have that community school back. I'm glad to see that it's coming back. I think it's just what the people and the children in that neighborhood need. So I just wanted you to know tonight I'm very excited that Greenville's coming back. Go Greenville Unicorns. Thank you.
Thank you. The further comment on the 4 resolutions before us this evening? Is there further comment on the resolutions this evening? Is there further comment on the resolutions this evening? Seeing no further comment, I declare citizen comment to be closed. Thank you.
Number 1, relative to conveying property at 84 and 60 Tallman Street by deed in lieu of foreclosure.
Thank you. Is there a motion, please, to put the resolution on the floor? Alderwoman Gould, second. Alderman Singh. Is there discussion? No discussion?
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
6-0.
Motion passes 6-0. The resolution is adopted.
Number 2, relative to the school construction grant application for construction of a new elementary school on the grounds of the former Greenville School.
Is there a motion, please, to bring it forward? Alderman Singh, is there a second? Alderman Neuendorf. Is there discussion? President Pro Tem.
Mayor, I would like to move to postpone action on this item until our first meeting in March on the 6th of March. And the reason why I'm making this, this motion is so that the building committee can interview and hopefully select the owner's rep before we decide which schools to actually put onto the grant application.
Thank you. The motion's made. Is there a second? A second, Alderwoman Berto. If I may, we discussed this in agenda setting, and so the same set of circumstances remain as of last Tuesday when we had the hires the owner's rep and a chance for the whole full committee to review whether it should be 2 or 3 that go forward because of the timeliness and need for meeting the requirements of the school construction grant program.
Yes, I haven't been in contact with Senator Austin's office, and she assures me that if we take action on these 3 resolutions, or however many schools, within the next 3 to 4 weeks, we would still be well within a timeline for the grant application. Again, I just think that the committee should hear from the owner's rep in terms of what their input is before we make the final decision on the grant application. However, I will say to you that I've also heard from the State Rep Wilson that, and from Senator Austin, that if we were to move forward with these on the 6th, if they are postponed, and we needed to pull one back, that would not be a, for lack of a better term, deal breaker with the state. It just plays better if we have all of our ducks in a row before we ask the state for anything.
Okay, thank you for the explanation further. Is there any further discussion or questions? Yes, Alderman Singh.
If it doesn't affect the grant application process, I'm willing to support the extension to postpone it to March 6th.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Alderwoman Gould?
I'd like to further amend it so resolution 2, 3, and 4 are all postponed.
Thank you, yes.
That
Until
considered a friendly amendment?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Seconded.
You need, who's the maker? So
Delucia
Alderwoman Gould
and
has
Berto
sought
are the-
to amend
Okay.
the First Amendment to include the other 2 resolutions at this time. Yep.
Okay.
Got it?
Who's the second on that then?
I'll second.
Because she didn't make the motion at all.
No.
Yes, I did.
Okay,
Second.
okay, okay. Thank you.
Okay, the motion before us is to consider postponing action on all 3 resolutions, 2, 3, and 4, until March 6th. Is there further discussion on that? Seeing none, roll call.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 6-0.
Okay, the amendment passes 6-0 on the motion, on the resolution as amended to postpone all 3 at this time. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
Alderman President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes?
And Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 6-0.
The motion passes 6-0. Resolutions 2, 3, and 4 are postponed till March 6th. There a motion to...
I hereby move pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 1-200, subsection 6, that the members of the Norwich City Council go into an executive session for the purpose of a discussion concerning the performance, evaluation, and appointment of a possible public officer or employee. The discussion not required to be held in an open meeting. The following shall be asked to participate during all or portions of this executive session at the request of the City Council. City Manager John Salamone, Director of Human Resources Bridget Marks, City Clerk Betsy Barrett, and Corporation Counsel Michael Driscoll.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion? Alderman Singh. Roll call on the motion, please.
Alderwoman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 6-0.
Motion to move to executive session passes 6-0. The council come back to order. Let the record show that no votes were taken during the executive session at this time. Can we have a motion to return?
Motion to return.
Second, please. Alderwoman Berto. Thank you. Roll call.
Alderwoman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould,
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf.
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia.
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom.
Yes.
That's 6-0.
Motion to return passes 6-0. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn, Alderwoman Gould, second. Alderman Neuendorf. Roll call, please.
Alderman Berto. Alderman Berto.
Yes.
Alderman Singh.
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould.
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf.
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia.
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom.
Yes.
That's 6-0.
Motion passes 6-0. We are adjourned.